The morning I decided to give up on everything, my coffee machine exploded. Not sputtered, not hissed, but exploded like it had been waiting years to avenge itself. Hot coffee rained over my counter, my sink, my shirt, and my last shred of dignity. I stared at the mess, shirt soaked, heart somehow even heavier, and actually laughed. Because if the universe wanted to make things clearer, this was pretty on the nose. I was tired, bone-deep tired. Not the kind that sleep fixes. The kind that settles in after too many disappointments, too many almosts, too many nights staring at a ceiling you can't afford and still feeling like you've failed. But the real punchline of the morning came 20 minutes later, when my phone buzzed with an article notification titled something like "Local Tech CEO Celebrates Engagement." And there he was, Elijah Hayes, my ex, my first love. The man who once promised me forever under a flickering diner light at 2 a.m. The man I'd spent 3 years trying to forget. And next to him stood his fiancée, all perfect smile and perfect suit and perfect future. I dropped my phone so fast it clattered against the linoleum, because apparently today was dedicated to destroying everything I owned. I thought I'd moved on. Truly. I'd convinced myself that the quiet ache I carried was just nostalgia, not longing. But seeing that picture Elijah glowing with success, confidence, happiness while I stood in a one-bedroom apartment drowning in overdue bills and coffee grounds felt like a cruel joke. Once, he'd told me I made him feel brave. Once, I believed we were going to build something together. But people grow, and sometimes they grow away from you. He'd moved to California to chase a tech dream, and I'd stayed in our little North Carolina town trying to survive my father's illness, my mother's debts, and my own drowning self-worth. The distance between us became more than miles. Still, I should have been over it. Should have been happy for him. Should have at least been able to look at his picture without feeling that old pull inside my chest. Instead, I sat on my kitchen floor, surrounded by broken plastic and dripping coffee, and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." And for the first time, I meant it. The day dragged on, gray and heavy, as if the weather had decided to match my mood. I worked my shift at the local bookstore, which was honestly less charming than it sounded. The owner, a 70-year-old man named Harold, had exactly 2 moods, nostalgic and mildly disappointed. I wasn't sure which one I inspired more. "You look like hell," he said when I came in, squinting at me over the register. "Thanks. I worked really hard on it." He grunted and went back to counting the drawer. By noon the store was empty, rain tapping the windows in soft, steady rhythms. I leaned my forehead against a stack of new arrivals and tried not to think. But the mind is cruel that way. It doesn't care what you want. It shows you what hurts. So I saw Elijah's smile again. The easy one, the one that crinkled the corner of his eyes. The one I hadn't seen in years, except in memories I kept trying to bury. I should delete the article. I should block him on everything. I should stop torturing myself. Instead, I pulled out my phone again and stared at the picture for the stupid, masochistic 20th time. "That's the guy you still love, isn't it?" a voice said behind me. I nearly dropped my phone again. It was Ava, my coworker, leaning on the doorway with the exact look of someone who knew too much and was thrilled about it. "No," I said too fast. "Yes," she said too easily. I groaned and rubbed my face. "It's complicated. It always is with you." I didn't respond. She stepped closer, softer now. "Hey, you know you're allowed to hurt, right? You don't have to pretend it didn't matter. The problem weighs it still mattered too much." Before I could answer, the door chimed and a gust of cold air swept in. I looked up, then froze. Standing in the doorway, wearing a soaked business coat, hair dripping from the rain, chest rising and falling with uneven breath was Elijah. My Elijah. Except he wasn't mine anymore. For a second, we just stared. The bookstore, the rain, the whole damn world went silent. He looked older, sharper, his jaw more defined, his cheekbones more carved, his shoulders broader. But his eyes, they were the same deep, warm brown I used to fall asleep staring into. "Mateo," he breathed. The sound of my name on his lips nearly buckled my knees. Ava blinked, looked at him, then at me, and mouthed, Oh my God, before vanishing like a ghost who refused to witness what came next. I swallowed hard. What are you doing here? He stepped inside, shaking rain from his hair, gaze locked on me like he couldn't look away. I came back for you. For a moment, I genuinely thought I'd misheard. For me? His chest rose with a shuddering breath. Yeah. I felt every wall inside me rise like a fortress. Elijah, you're engaged. Something flickered across his face, pain, guilt, something more tangled. It's not what you think, he said quietly. What I think is that you're about to marry someone else. He stepped closer, and I stepped back until my hip hit a shelf. I never stopped loving you, he said. My heart stuttered violently. Then anger hot and sharp cut through the fog. Don't, I whispered. Don't come here and say things like that. It's the truth. It's too late. No, he said, voice breaking in a way that collapsed something inside me. It isn't. The rain outside had become a storm by the time we sat across from each other in the tiny bookstore break room. The fluorescent light flickered annoyingly above us. Elijah's wet coat hung on a hook, dripping onto the tile. He looked out of place here like a man carved from a different world. A higher one. And maybe that's why I felt so small sitting across from him. You should go back, I said. Your fiancé is probably waiting. He didn't flinch. Not even a little. There is no fiancé. I frowned. The article said, it wasn't real. My brain stalled. What? He sighed, scrubbing a hand down his face. It was a publicity move. The board thought it would make the company look stable. That I'd look settled. Grounded. Investors like that crap. So they made up your engagement. No. They asked me to stage one. And I agreed. I stared at him, disbelief turning slowly into something uglier. Why would you do that? His eyes lifted, soft, almost pleading. Because I thought you had moved on. I thought you didn't want me anymore. And I didn't know how to stop wanting you. The storm outside cracked with thunder. That's insane, I whispered. It's the truth. I pushed up from the chair, pacing because the room had suddenly become too small. You can't just show up after all these years and... You think I didn't try to stay away? He cut in, voice rising. I fought myself for 3 years. I tried to build a life without you. I tried to forget the way you laugh or the way you say my name or the way your voice softens when you're tired. I tried, Mateo. I swear I tried. My throat tightened painfully. But every city felt empty. Every achievement felt hollow. Every person I met felt wrong because they weren't you. I gripped the counter, knuckles white. Elijah, I said softly, you broke me. His breath hitched. And leaving you broke me. Silence pressed between us like a hand against my chest. We didn't speak for a long moment. Just breathing. Just hurting. Just remembering. Finally, I said, why now? Why come back now? He exhaled shakily. Because I saw your name on a list of layoffs. Because I heard your father passed away and I wasn't there. Because every time I saw your picture online, you looked a little more tired. Like life kept taking from you. And I hated myself for not being beside you. My heartbeat stilled. How do you know all that? I never stopped keeping track of you, he admitted. Not in a creepy way. I just needed to know you were okay. Something inside me cracked at the edges. I wasn't, I whispered. His eyes glistened. I know. A beat passed. Then another. Then the question I'd feared more than any other escaped me. So what do you want from me, Elijah? He stood, slow and deliberate, like approaching a wounded animal. I want a chance to fix what I broke. I shook my head. You can't fix everything. No, he agreed. But I can try to fix us. There is no us. Yes, he said, stepping close enough that I could feel the warmth of him again after all these years. There is. His voice dropped, barely above a whisper. It never stopped hurting, Mateo. Not once. And if you tell me right now that you feel nothing, I'll walk out that door and never bother you again. I swallowed hard. Too hard. Because I did feel something. Too much. Way too much. But my voice wouldn't come. So Elijah leaned in, not touching, just close and said, "I still love you." And that was when my world tilted. Elijah's confession hung in the air like something alive, trembling and fragile. I felt it settle into the cracks inside meth, ones I'd pretended weren't there. My breath shuddered. My hands wouldn't stay still. And if the room hadn't already been spinning before, it certainly was now. He was so close. Too close. Close enough that I could smell the rain on him. That faint cedar scent he'd always used. The one that once clung to my shirts and pillows and dreams. And all at once it felt like the years between us dissolved. Like time decided to fold in on itself. I forced myself to speak. "Elijah, you can't just show up and expect me to fall apart the way I used to." "I'm not expecting anything," he murmured. "I'm hoping." God, that was worse. I stepped back, trying to find space to breathe. "This is too much. You're overwhelming me." He nodded, jaw tight but eyes soft. "I know. I'm sorry." He moved away, giving me room, and the loss of his nearness felt stupidly sharp. I hated that I still felt something primal when he was close. I leaned against the counter, staring at the peeling linoleum. "You left, Elijah. I know. You didn't fight for us. I know that too. And now you're asking me to, what? Just forget all the pain?" He swallowed, hands curling at his sides. "No. I'm asking you to let me earn back your trust." A humorless laugh escaped me. "Trust? You shattered it. And I'll spend as long as it takes to rebuild it." His certainty sent a tremor through me. I didn't want it to, but it did. "Why now?" I asked again, voice quieter. "Why today of all days?" He hesitated, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a worn envelope. The edges were frayed, like it had been held too much. "I wrote this the day I moved to California," he said softly. "I was going to send it. I didn't." "Why?" "Because I was a coward." He set the envelope on the break room table between us. My name was written on the front in handwriting I'd once memorized. I didn't touch it. "I came to give it to you," he said. "Because you deserve to know why I left the way I did. And because I needed you to hear me say that I'm sorry." The storm outside cracked again, rattling the window. I stared at the envelope. My heartbeat roared in my ears. Part of me wanted to rip it open. Part of me wanted to burn it. "Elijah," I whispered, "I don't know what you expect this to change." "I'm not asking it to change your mind," he said. "I'm asking it to give you the truth you never got." I shook my head, overwhelmed. "I can't do this right now." He nodded once. Firm, respectful. "Okay." He didn't push, didn't beg, just stepped back with this quiet kind of acceptance that somehow hurt even more. Then he said, "Mateo, will you at least let me drive you home?" I blinked. "What? No, I can walk. It's storming." "I don't care." "Well, I do." That old stubbornness between us flickered like a dying candle. I exhaled, exhausted. "Fine. Just don't talk." He smiled, small and sad. "I can do that." The storm pummeled the town as we left the bookstore. Rain hammered against the asphalt, soaking my shoes within seconds. Elijah held his coat over us, though it barely helped. The wind pushed sideways sheets of water across the parking lot. His car, a sleek, black Tesla that looked wildly out of place in our shabby town, beeped as he unlocked it. He opened the passenger door for me. I hesitated. We'd taken this step before years ago. In a beat-up Honda we'd driven until the AC gave out and the radio only played static. Being in a car with him again felt too intimate in a way that made my skin prickle. Still, I slid in. He jogged around to the driver's side, shaking rain from his hair before getting in. The car hummed to life with quiet sophistication that felt foreign next to the chaos inside me. The windshield wipers swished rhythmically. The world blurred behind sheets of rain. We didn't speak. The silence was thick, but not hateful. Just full. After a few minutes, he glanced at me. "Seat warmer." "No, music." "No," he nodded, lips twitching slightly. "Silent existential crisis it is." Against my will, a laugh slipped out quick, strained, but real. He looked at me like he'd been waiting years to hear it. We drove through town, past the diner where we'd had our first date, past the faded baseball field where he'd once kissed me at sunset, past the old movie theater we'd snuck into during senior year. Every landmark was a landmine of memory. "You still live on Madison Street?" he asked softly. For now. For now." I stared out the window. "I might be moving. To where? I don't know yet." He was quiet, but I felt the tension radiate from him. "I'm not running from you," I added, surprising myself. "I'm just tired. And this town feels like it's crushing me." He breathed slowly, like he was choosing every word with care. "Then let me help you." "No, why?" "Because you don't get to save me anymore." He flinched, actually flinched. "Okay," he said quietly. "Then let me stand beside you while you save yourself." God, why did he have to say things like that? We reached my apartment building, its brick exterior stained from decades of rain. A light flickered on the second-floor landing, buzzing inconsistently. I unbuckled and reached for the door, but Elijah said softly, "Mateo." I froze. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today," he said, "or tomorrow, but I'm not leaving again. Not unless you tell me to." I clenched the handle. "I don't know what I want." "I do." His voice softened. "You want peace. You want rest. You want to breathe again without it hurting." I closed my eyes, and there it was, the truth I didn't want to say out loud. "And you think you can give me that?" I whispered. He didn't hesitate. "I think I can share the weight of your world, so you're not carrying it alone." Something inside me trembled, but I shook my head. "You don't get to just come back and act like the hero." "I'm not a hero," he said. "I'm just a man who still loves you." I opened the door and stepped into the rain before he could say more. But as I reached the bottom of the stairs, he called out through the downpour, "Read the letter, Mateo. Even if you never speak to me again." I didn't turn around. Couldn't. I stood in my apartment long after Elijah's car pulled away, dripping water onto the floor. My clothes clung cold and wet to my skin. The letter burned in my pocket like a lit match. The room felt too quiet, too empty, too small. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the envelope. My hands shook. Then, finally, I opened it. The paper was old, creased from being folded too long. His handwriting was messy, hurried, so unlike the polished man he'd become. I began to read. "Mateo, if you're reading this, it means I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I left, and I need you to know it was never because I stopped loving you." My vision blurred instantly. I kept reading. "Your father is sick. Your mother needs you. You've already sacrificed so much to stay near them. And I can see the guilt eating at you. The nights you think I don't notice when you stay awake. The way you look at bills and pretend you're not scared. I love you, but I hate watching you fall apart because of me. No, 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 no. You told me last week that you would come with me to California. That you would drop everything to follow me. But you're not meant to follow me, Mateo. You're meant to save your family. You're meant to stay here. You're meant to be the good son you've always been." My throat closed. "And I can't let you give up your life for mine. I can't let you lose yourself for me. So I'm leaving first. Because if I stay one more second, if I see you cry, if you ask me to stay, I know I won't be able to walk away. I love you too much to be the reason your world collapses." Sobs clawed at my chest. "I know you'll hate me for this. I know you'll think I abandoned you. But I swear on everything I have ever been and will ever be, I left because I loved you. Not in spite of it. Because of it." I dropped the paper, covered my face with trembling hands. For years I had hated him for choosing himself. I never once considered he might have been choosing me. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time became abstract. Tears blurred into exhaustion until my body sagged sideways on the bed. When the storm outside finally softened, I felt something inside me shift, like a lock turning, like grief easing its grip just a little. I didn't know if I could forgive Elijah, but for the first time I understood him, and that terrified me. 3 days passed. 3 slow, aching days where the world moved on as if my insides hadn't been ripped open and reassembled. I worked. I slept badly. I reread the letter more times than I'd admit. Every time I reached the line about him loving me too much to stay, something hot and heavy knotted in my chest. And beneath all of it simmered one truth I couldn't outrun. I still loved him. I always had. But loving him didn't erase the years of loneliness. It didn't erase the abandonment. It didn't erase the instinctive flinch every time someone promised they wouldn't leave. I was still broken in places he couldn't just walk in and fix. And yet every time I imagined never seeing him again, I felt sick. On the afternoon of the third day, while I was stacking returned books behind the counter, Ava nudged me with her elbow. "He's outside," she whispered. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Who?" She rolled her eyes so dramatically it was almost painful. "Who do you think? Your walking soap opera episode of an ex." I peeked through the window. There he was, Elijah, standing across the street in a gray sweater and dark jeans, hands shoved into his pockets, looking up at the bookstore like it was a place he was afraid to enter, like he wasn't sure he'd be welcome. And something about that humility coming from a man who now ran a multimillion-dollar company hit me hard. "What do you want to do?" Ava asked. I swallowed. "I don't know." "Then here's a bold idea," she said. "Go find out." I took a breath. Then I stepped outside. The cold air stung my cheeks. Elijah straightened the second he saw me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Cars hummed by. Leaves scattered on the sidewalk. The world continued like this wasn't the most terrifying moment of my year. Finally, Elijah said, "I wasn't sure if you'd come out." "I wasn't sure either." That earned a breath of a laugh. "Fair." I crossed my arms, partly from the cold, partly because I didn't know what else to do with them. "What are you doing here?" I asked. He hesitated. "I didn't want things to end with you walking away in the rain." I raised a brow. "You didn't follow me." "I promised I wouldn't unless you wanted me to." That startled me. "You actually meant that?" He nodded. "Mateo, I meant every word I've said to you." Silence settled between us again, but this time it was less sharp, more unsure. Finally, I said, "I read the letter." His eyes softened instantly. "And," I exhaled, watching my breath fog in the air, "and I don't know how to feel." "That's okay." "No, it's not," I said, voice cracking. "I don't know if I should be angry or relieved or heartbroken or grateful. I don't know if I'm supposed to forgive you or scream at you. You're allowed to do any of those." "I don't want to do any of them." He blinked. "Then, what do you want?" I looked up at him, at the man who had once been my entire world. "I want to not hurt anymore," I whispered. He stepped closer, slowly, carefully. "I want that for you too," he said. "Even if it has nothing to do with me." My chest tightened. "Elijah, I'm not ready." "I know. I don't know when I'll be ready." "I know," he repeated gently. "Then why are you still here?" He took a breath deep, steady, grounding. "Because I love you," he said. "And loving someone means showing up, even if all you're allowed to do is stand on the opposite side of the street and wait." My throat closed, hard. "That's not fair," I whispered. "No," he said softly. "It's not. But losing you once was agony. Losing you twice would destroy me. So I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to prove to you, every day, that I'm not leaving this time." His voice dropped. "Not unless you tell me to." My breath trembled. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just said, "I need time." He nodded. "Take all of it." I swallowed. "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime," he said with a small, hopeful smile, "maybe we can try being in each other's lives again. Slowly, carefully, whatever way you're comfortable with." My heart did something painful and ridiculous. "You're serious?" "More than I've ever been." I looked down at my shoes, then back up at him, and whispered, "Okay," a single word. But his face lit up like the sun had broken through the storm. Elijah and I never talked about that moment in front of the bookstore again. Not directly. Not the way most people would. Instead, we slipped into something softer, something quiet but steady, like stepping into warm water after standing in the cold too long. We met for coffee once a week. At first it was awkward, painfully so. I would stir my drink long after the foam dissolved, unable to meet his eyes. Elijah never pushed. He just sat across from me, shoulders relaxed, occasionally talking about mundane things. His company, his dog back in California, how he burned microwave popcorn the night before and set off a hotel alarm. He made me laugh, not because he forced it, but because he didn't try too hard. He let the space between us heal without forcing open old wounds. And somehow, it worked. So slowly it terrified me. We found a rhythm again. Not love. Not yet. But something that felt like the outline of it. One late evening, after our weekly coffee, Elijah walked me to my apartment. Snow flurries drifted around us, catching in his dark hair. The streetlights made the scene look unreal, like a movie I shouldn't have been starring in. He stopped at the bottom of my steps. "Can I ask you something?" he said. I stiffened. "Depends." He smiled faintly. "Nothing scary." "That's debatable." He exhaled, a cloud of warm breath in the cold air. "Do you feel better than when I first came back?" I paused. Then I told him the truth. "Yes." His shoulders eased, tension dissolving. "Good. That's all I needed to know." I don't know why, but that was the night I reached out and touched his sleeve. Just a brief brush of my fingers, barely anything. But his breath caught like it meant the world. Maybe it did. Winter turned into early spring, though in our town that mostly meant the snow melted into slush and the air smelled like wet pavement. But I didn't mind. For the first time in years, I felt something resembling hope. A fragile thing, but real. One quiet Tuesday afternoon at the bookstore, Ava cornered me in the stockroom. "So," she asked, arms crossed, "are you two getting back together or what?" I nearly dropped the stack of books in my hands. "What? No, we're talking." She raised an eyebrow so sharp it could have cut me. "Mateo, you look like someone who's been emotionally moisturized by an ex who regrets all his life choices." "That's not a thing." "It is now." I sighed. "He's changed, Ava. I can see it. But I don't know if that means we're supposed to be together again." "Do you trust him?" I hesitated. "A long time." "I'm getting there." She softened. "Then let yourself." "Let myself." God, if only it were that easy. That evening, when Elijah walked in to pick me up for our usual coffee, something inside me shifted. I looked at him, really looked, and saw all the ways he'd grown. Softer in some places, stronger in others. His eyes gentler, his voice warmer. And I realized something so simple it almost knocked the air out of me. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. I wasn't afraid of being with him. I was afraid of losing him again. That fear found me 2 nights later. I came home from a late shift to find Elijah sitting on the hood of his car outside my apartment. He stood when he saw me, his expression unreadable. "Hey," I said, adjusting my scarf. "What's wrong?" He swallowed tightly. "I leave tomorrow." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I have to go back to California. There's an issue at the company that needs me." "Oh, I'll only be gone 3 weeks," he added quickly. "Not long, right?" He stepped closer. "Mateo, say something." I shrugged helplessly. "What do you want me to say?" "You're leaving. Again." His face crumpled. "Not like before. Not even close." "No," I said, bitterness bleeding through without my permission. "Because it feels familiar." "That's not fair." "Maybe not, but it's honest." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I'm coming back. I swear to you." "You swore before." "That was different. I didn't know who I was back then. I didn't know how to stay. And now, he exhaled shakily. "Now I know I can't live a life that doesn't have you in it." My throat tightened. "Elijah," I whispered, "I don't want to do long-distance pain again." "I don't either." He took my hands suddenly, holding them like they were something breakable. "Then don't call it that. Call it temporary. Call it part of the work I need to finish before I come home." "Home." His voice was soft as breath. "You." Mateo, you are home. Something inside me shattered and rebuilt itself at the same time. He stepped closer, so close I felt his heartbeat in the air between us. I'm going for 3 weeks, he whispered. And when I come back, if you'll let me, I want to build a life here with you. My breath stopped. Elijah, no pressure, no timelines, no expectations, just hope. God, why did hope feel so dangerous? I closed my eyes, struggling. He touched the side of my face. His thumb brushed my cheek gently, reverently. Please don't shut me out, he murmured. Not now. Not when we're finally finding our way back. I didn't know how to respond with words, so instead I leaned forward, rested my forehead against his, and whispered, "Come back to me." His breath hitched. Always. He didn't kiss me. He didn't need to. The promise between us was stronger than any kiss could have been. The 3 weeks were hell. Not dramatic, movie-style hell. Just the quiet kind. The kind where you check your phone too often. The kind where you reread old texts. The kind where nights feel longer and mornings feel emptier. Elijah called every evening. Not to pressure me. Not to demand anything. Just to talk. He told me about chaotic meetings. The dog sitter who kept mixing up his terrier with a neighbor's chihuahua. The way he missed the snow here, even though he always complained about it when we were kids. He asked about my day. Every day. Without fail. And slowly, the fear inside me began to loosen its claws. One night, near the end of the 3rd week, he asked softly, "Do you ever think about the future?" I hesitated. Sometimes. And does it scare you? Yes, I admitted. A lot. Me too. I blinked. Really? He chuckled. Mateo, I'm not fearless. I'm just trying to be brave where it matters. Does this matter? More than anything. Silence settled thick and warm. Then he said it, voice raw with meaning. I'm coming home in 3 days. And for the first time, the word didn't scare me. It soothed me. The day he returned, March sunlight spilled over the town like something new. People moved slowly along the sidewalks, jackets half-zipped, faces turned toward the hint of spring. I was shelving books when my phone buzzed. I'm here, outside. My pulse kicked. I walked out of the shop, heart pounding, palms sweating, mind racing. And then I saw him, standing beside his car, hands in pockets, eyes searching for me. But the moment he spotted me, his whole face broke open into the softest smile I'd ever seen. He walked toward me. I walked toward him. We stopped 2 feet apart. Neither of us spoke. For a second, I wondered if everything we'd rebuilt would collapse under the weight of this moment. But then Elijah whispered, "Hi." I choked out a laugh. "Hi." He looked at me like he was memorizing every emotion on my face. "I missed you." My voice trembled. "I know." The wind blew softly between us. Passing car splashed through a puddle. Somewhere, someone's dog barked. And then I said the words that had been growing inside me for weeks. Fragile but true. I want to try again. Elijah froze. "Mateo, I'm still scared," I said quickly. "I'm still hurting. I'm still figuring things out. But I want this. I want you. I want us." Slowly, carefully, honestly. His eyes shined in the sunlight. "You don't know how long I've waited to hear that." I swallowed. "Then say something." He didn't say something. He said everything. Elijah stepped forward, cupped the sides of my face, and kissed me. Not fiercely, not desperately, softly, like he was asking for permission even as he gave me everything. His lips were warm, familiar, new. My breath shook against his. My fingers curled into the front of his coat. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine, laughing breathlessly. "I'm home," he whispered. "You are. And I'm not leaving again. You better not." He kissed me once more, slower this time. "I love you," he murmured. I didn't flinch from it. I didn't hide from it. I let it settle into the places that had been broken for years, and whispered back, "I love you too." Things didn't magically fix themselves overnight. Life stayed messy, imperfect, real. Some mornings, I felt panic rise for no reason. Elijah learned to hold me without demanding explanations. Some days he had to fly out for weekend meetings. I learned to trust that he would always come back. We talked more, fought better, held each other through the hard parts, laughed through the good ones. We made plans, small ones first. A shared Sunday breakfast habit, a weekend trip to the coast, a plant we kept killing and replacing because neither of us could keep anything green alive. Eventually months later we began to talk about bigger things, like houses, like dogs, like forever. And one quiet evening, as we sat on my couch with his head resting on my shoulder, Elijah tangled our fingers together and whispered, "We did it, you know." "Did what?" "Found our way back." I pressed a kiss to his temple. "Yeah, we did." He smiled softly, eyes drifting closed. I looked at him, the boy I once loved, the man I now adored, and realized something simple and profound. Sometimes love breaks. Sometimes it shatters. Sometimes it leaves scars you think will never heal. But sometimes, if you're lucky, it comes back stronger, wiser, truer, exactly when you need it. Elijah squeezed my hand. I squeezed back, and for the first time in years I felt whole. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.